Eugene C. Bradshaw writes in with an angry tweet, which is always fun. You F words have been yelling tick, 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 tick for 2 effing years now. Just come out and admit it. We were wrong. No deal. I will not admit that. In fact, I'll show you how right I was.
Yeah, can I actually want to jump in on that. I don't know, maybe my perspective is completely skewed, but I think compared to other news programs, we did not focus on the Russian collusion story nearly as much. Now, did we talk about that story when there were updates that we felt were relevant? Yeah, absolutely. Did we share our own speculation as to what the outcome of the investigation would be? Absolutely. So I'm only speaking for myself here, right? Did I think that it was likely Trump colluded with Russia? Yes, I did, but it wasn't because of what Democrats were saying. It was because of the way Trump was carrying himself publicly. So all the tweets, the fact that he fired Comey, the fact that he couldn't stop criticizing his own Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, for recusing himself. I felt that he was doing a great job incriminating himself, right? Which I thought was interesting. So I was wrong. Apparently, this investigation finds that there was no collusion with Russia. So I have no problem admitting that I was wrong.
No. Super important distinction. We're gonna show you the videos right now. If you say there's no collusion in the election, okay, that's true, right? Mm-hmm. And to the degree that we covered that, and we minimize it throughout, you're gonna see it with your own eyes, okay? Okay, then I would say yes, then we would be wrong about that part. Mm-hmm. Do I concede that there was no collusion with Russia at all? Absolutely not. I don't concede that for a second, because it's not true. There's a reason why Donald Trump's acting like a maniac to cover things up, because he did collude with the Russians. He just didn't do it during the election. So let me explain, because I have been explaining throughout, right? So we're gonna show you some old clips, we're gonna show you some relatively new clips, but the best summary of my point of view on this was when I was talking to John during our live coverage of the Michael Cohen hearings. I wanna show you that, then I wanna show you me debating or discussing the issue with people who never believed in Russiagate, like Aaron Mate and Kyle Kulinski. And then you'll get to see what I actually said in all those things. Okay, so first, this is the overall explanation of what I thought about a month before we found out anything about the Mueller report. Watch.
One of the crimes that would be alleged is not collusion. That's not an actual term used in legalese. One of the crimes would be conspiracy. But it appears that there is not a conspiracy that has come to fruition here. But it looks like, based on the information we have now, I would conclude that I don't believe the conspiracy came to a fruition. Yeah. But it's possible that they did all of that, but fell short of actually conspiring with the Trump campaign.
In a way that is clear and provable.
Yes, so I need you to brace for impact on that possibility, because right now I've got that as the leading possibility. A second issue is non-Russian issues. So emoluments clause, what did he promise the Saudis? Did he do a deal with ZTE and China and Indonesia? That's a whole separate issue, right? There's a trademark issue. And then the most clear one is the campaign finance violations. Clear felony, Michael Cohen has admitted it. He has documents to back it up. His co-conspirator, as is revealed definitively today, Donald Trump. But I'm gonna leave all that aside and get to issue number 3, which is there collusion after he becomes president? Mm-hmm. And that's my thesis, okay? And so that is based on 2 things. One is the money laundering in the past, before the campaign, which gives Russians the leverage and the compromising information on Trump, which then allows them to suggest to Trump that things would be better for him if he were to go in this direction. And there the evidence is the secret meetings that Trump is having with Putin, which is outrageous, unprecedented, taking away the translator notes, not allowing any aides into the meetings, and then later not allowing any American translators into the meetings. So when you put all that together, I think the collusion, as it were, the conspiracy, et cetera, happened after the election, not during the election.
So for all the people on social media saying, hey, Cenk made it up after the Mueller report came out that he thought it was really the collusion before and after the election and not during the election, I guess you were 100% wrong, because there I am a month before any of that comes out saying exactly that. And if you can't wrap your mind around the idea that Trump might have worked with the Russians for decades on business properties, 63 different Russian billionaires giving him money that's telltale money laundering, and then hence the Russians might have compromising information on him, and that would be part of the collusion, not during the election, but after he becomes president, well then I can't help you because you can't understand simple concepts. And you wouldn't be alone. The Democratic Party's like, what? Money laundering, I can't what? I just cared about protecting Hillary Clinton. I know you guys did, but not us. So we did not do the same thing as the Democratic Party. We did not do the same thing as the mainstream media. And those are very important distinctions. I'll tell you one other thing. After the election, Eric Prince goes to Seychelles Island. This is a meeting that we know for a fact absolutely happened, and has a secret meeting with the Russian officials. Eric Prince sent by Donald Trump. Why are they having a secret meeting in the middle of the ocean on Seychelles Island when they thought they wouldn't get caught on that meeting? If they're not colluding after the election. Now, of course, the right wing is not very bright, so they go around going, how could you collude after an election? You would collude by, doing the Russians what the Russians want, because they have compromising information on you. Not that hard to figure out. So it is not moving the goalposts. Definitely not on our part.
So the emphasis on the possible financial crimes was definitely prominent on the show. We talked about it over and over again. But moving forward, I think that, look, I don't know if there was collusion with Russia after the election, right? But I don't know if the Democratic Party and federal prosecutors can really look into that and not deal with a giant political blow, right? Because after this Mueller investigation, since they did focus so much on the collusion angle, I just think that they need to be hyper-focused on the possible financial crimes, because the moment that they mention that they're still looking into collusion, then I think that it does lend credibility to Trump's argument and the right wing's argument that this is a witch hunt.
So that's what they will frame it as, and some folks on the left wing will definitely help them in that framing. And so I get that politically it's going to be hard to do, and that's why I was warning throughout that they're bungling it, and that's not what they should do. So that is a political reality. That doesn't mean that Trump didn't do it. In fact, that same day that the Michael Cohen hearings happened, that I had that conversation with John, later in the day, Aaron Mate happened to be in the studio. We wanted to have this conversation about Russia. It just happened to be on the same day as the Cohen hearings. And I explained that I thought the election was the smallest part. Here, watch. So there's the Internet Research Agency in 2014, this is when it begins, and they do propaganda in America. First, let me just admit right off the bat, I don't think that this necessarily swung the election, nor is it necessarily collusion, because it doesn't show that Trump helped them. And it started in 2014. So how would they even know that Trump was going to run for president? And that, like, at some point there was a hyperbolic thing on mainstream media about, oh my God, they had 4 million Twitter impressions during the election.
It was Pearl Harbor, people were comparing it to
4 million Twitter impressions is like 2 tweets. Whatever. Okay, it's not that interesting. So there I was saying that the election, potential collusion in the election, is very uninteresting and not the main event. And in fact, I went on to say in that interview, as well as many other times on the Young Turks, why would Roger Stone have to go and get information about when WikiLeaks is releasing the stolen emails if Trump worked with the Russians to steal the emails? Then they wouldn't have to go to WikiLeaks. That makes no sense. So that's why I was telling John, I was telling Anna, I was telling anyone who would listen, I don't think the collusion in the elections is the big deal at all. Okay, and you just saw it with your own eyes a month before the Mueller report comes out. All right, but did I actually say the big deal is before or after the election? Well, let's find out. I can go on and on about the election, but I actually think that the collusion in the election is a very hard case to make. But again, it's not the main event, right? Because I think that the Democratic establishment and a lot of people in the media, Rachel Maddow, have overhyped the collusion in the election, okay? But what I'm concerned about is Donald Trump's deep ties to the Russians throughout his business career, which I'm worried has affected what he has done in office. Now, so I guess I was right and you were wrong if you were saying that we're moving the goalposts after the Mueller report comes out. No, do not conflate us with the mainstream media or the Democratic Party. We are way smarter than that. Okay, so they made that mistake a million times. We did not. So now you say, oh, but Cenk, that was just a month before the Mueller report is out. All right, let's go to the Kyle Kulinski interview I did over a year ago, 13 months ago. Let's see if I was saying similar things. Let's watch.
And are they demagoguing Russia because it's easier? Yes. So I agree with you on that. And is the Democratic Party using Russia meddling in the elections as an excuse for their loss to Donald Trump? Yes. Elizabeth Warren was on the show. Now, to be fair to her, it was really a while back at this point. But she said the #1 issue in the 2018 elections for the Democratic Party should be Russia. And I was thinking, no, that's a terrible idea.
So now, look, Kyle made a lot of great points in that interview. You should go back and watch that. Aaron made a lot of great points in his interview. You should go back and watch that, get the full context. I'm showing you what I said here just to show you that this show has been consistent throughout. Now, so there I minimize what happened in the election. But did I really talk about what happened before and after the election, all the way back then? Let's watch.
Now, I will say that I think that Russia is a quote unquote big deal because I believe that Trump did far worse than helping the Russians meddle in our elections. I believe that he did money laundering, and I think that he owes the Russians and is paying them back. And I think it is a wildly dangerous situation for our democracy.
Okay, so at this point, you can still continue to disagree with me on that, but you cannot say Mueller covered that because he did not. That is not what the Mueller report was about. It was. And I did an episode of Old School about a month or so ago, where I said, watch out, I think he's just gonna cover the election. And even though the money laundering would be directly related to what he would do for the Russians after the election, I don't think he's gonna cover it. And if he doesn't cover it, then this report is pretty pointless, because what happened during the election, as you just saw me saying over and over again in those videos, was not that big a deal. So they missed it, And so, and it's not to say that Mueller did a bad job. Mueller was given a task, look into the elections. It was very narrow. He looked into the elections. He showed how the Russians did interfere. He did indictments based on that. He had people lie to him. He did indictments based on that. He happened to uncover other crimes like Manafort's crimes, not related to Trump. He did that. And then he turned to the election and said, no, Trump and the Russians did not collude during the election. But he did not cover before or after the election. And the idiot Democrats did not focus on those things. Instead, they focused on the only thing that they thought mattered to them politically, which is, we didn't lose the election, we didn't lose it, the Russians stole it. And it was a terrible political idea in the first place. It was wrong also on the substance, and now it has been proven as such. Not only did we not agree to that, we fought against that idea. And so, if you're asking me to conclude, if you will, that was a funny Freudian slip. Conclude that Donald Trump is now innocent of all ties to the Russians. My answer is hell no. I do not concede that. I do not conclude that, nor will I ever. If prosecutors actually looked into those issues and then came back with evidence, then I would say yes, that's fine. But what we have in the public right now is overwhelming evidence that he did work with the Russians, just not during the election. And if you want to cry about that or get triggered by it, have at it, Hoss.
So I don't know, without a shadow of a doubt that Trump did collude with Russians after the election or prior to the election. Obviously, further investigations will, give us the answers to that. And the Democrats are planning on continuing the investigation to Trump. The point that I want to make is that because of the way the Democrats have handled this so far, they've bungled this. And I think that they have lost credibility in investigating him, period. I think that the right wing will very successfully use the Mueller report to paint a very specific picture of the Democrats and how they're only in it for political reasons and nothing more. But I will agree that the #1 concern is whether or not he has committed financial crimes. And even though no one knows for sure whether or not he's done that yet, obviously we have to wait for the results of the investigation. I just worry that regardless of what they find in the investigations, Republicans are going to fight for Trump till the end, right? So they can very easily take the findings of those investigations, if they do find that Trump is guilty, and just argue, no, we're not gonna go along with Democrats in trying to impeach Trump, because this has been nothing more than a witch hunt. There was this long investigation by Mueller, and anything that these people find is just a political ploy to get rid of him. So they've bungled this, and it's a disaster, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and the Republicans and some of the left-wingers who are celebrating today, I'd also be careful if I was you. So you might be taking a victory lap today. And by the way, if you're a left-winger and you're super psyched that Donald Trump was cleared on one charge, congratulations. But be careful that you don't high step too much. Because you've still got Alan Weisselberg out there, and you don't know what the chief financial officer of the Trump organization has to say yet, and Southern District of New York or other offices can pursue what he's saying. That you've got Felix Sater's testimony coming up, and you've got the Russians as well. God knows what they'll do next. If I'm right, and they have that information on what Trump has done in the past, are you positive they're not going to leak that to create more chaos? If you are, I think you're way too cocksure. So. Now, I will concede this final thing. Anna and I have been talking about this a long time. I certainly have. I've said this 1,000 times. And we made a bet about it, that Trump will leave office, I said, before his term is up, because he'll get caught on these things. Well, so far, he hasn't gotten caught. And so now that prediction of mine still has some time left, but that one does not look good right now. And so he'd have to get caught, and he'd have to get caught awfully quick on all the other crimes for him to be taken out of office before the 2020 elections. So the jury's out on that one, but I hope and I believe that I'm a rational person looking at the facts, and the facts on that one are not in my favor. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.